What's up, everybody? This is How To Tech, and we are going to go ahead and disassemble this HTC 10 today. Just got it in the mail, and I figured what better way to christen it than rip it open. First thing we'll be using is a heat gun, and then we'll be using a few additional tools. I'm guessing we'll be using all these. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to use, but nylon spudger. We'll need a small Phillips screwdriver, and normally it's a Torx 5. That we'll be using to disassemble the interior portion, a metal spudger called an Disassembly tool, a pair of tweezers because it's probably going to be filled with freaking tape, some playing cards, and a couple guitar picks. Go ahead and eject out our SD card slot and our SIM card slot out of the phone, and try not to turn your phone on when you do this because that seems to be my habit. Now this little plastic piece at the top, I took it off. I don't think it does anything. You can probably just leave it on. I couldn't figure out any benefit to having it on your phone or really having it off, and I don't understand why it's even there. So if you figure out what it is, or if it gives you trouble when you disassemble your phone, throw it down in the comments. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. So basically, we're just going to go ahead and heat up the phone screen just around the edges here. We don't need to heat up the middle portion as it's not adhered down. It just has a double-sided adhesive around the bezel and sides of the device. We're going to use preferably just a playing card to get this thing started. You can use like an Disassembly tool to help you get started if you have troubles. This one has a little bit of a gap over here on the side. So we're going to start here. Just slide your playing card in and around. I've cut the playing card edge off so it's flat to give me more surface to get underneath it. I find that was a little trick to help you get started. And if you feel your glue's not hot enough once you get there, go ahead and just keep warming it up. I'll have to heat it up a few times to get all the way around the device. Now, if your screen is broken, you don't have to be as careful as I'm going to be at this point. But since this is still a brand new phone and it's fully functional, I'm going to take my time here. And if you do have a screen that is functional, the key thing to this is especially down the sides and the very corners. It happens a lot on LCD devices or really any device that has optical clear adhesive on it. You get your screen too hot, you put your card too close to the corner, and you ding your screen, or it wants to pull up away off the actual display and you get little bubbles. So you want to be careful with that. You don't want to get too close to the display and nick it. That happened on my LG G5 video, so you might want to check that out if you want to see what I'm talking about. So we're just going to try to slide our card in here again. One benefit is multiple cards and just leave them in where they're at to help you get that separation. So we have to go back and forth again. All right, so we've got the top pretty much done down to the display. Now what we have to do is go down the side here. Now this is what I was talking about a second ago. You want to be very careful here. So you're going to heat up the side of the phone, but you can't put your playing card in too far or else you could damage the actual display of the device. So just basically right to the edge, but not too far in. And take your time, there's no rush here. So a nice steady hand. Work your way down the device. Alright, so now as we get down to the bottom, it might be ideal to actually leave your playing card down here. What I'm going to do is grab another playing card and try to work my way back up. Actually just put up here to hold the top portion in on the phone. It can be easier if we just cut it flat instead of trying to use the rounded corner. And we'll just put our playing card in kind of sideways here to hold the top portion of this open. They use some really sticky adhesive on this phone, so you're going to want to make sure you kind of hold it open with your playing cards, or if you're using a guitar pick or something else. Just try not to get too close to the actual display itself. You don't want to actually touch it. Alright, now with that done, our next step is to go ahead and work our way down around the bottom of the device. Use our heat gun and go ahead and heat it up down here as well. Now, there's capacitive buttons on this phone, so that means that there are backlights behind the buttons that are probably adhered to the back of this glass. So you want to be very careful when you're using this. You don't want to run it too fast. You want to try to make sure it's as flat against the glass as possible. If you work your way up towards the bottom portion first and then up, normally I have a little bit better success doing that without damaging the buttons. Try to work our way down the phone here again, and turn the corner. Just kind of slide the card in and around. right above the button and right below the home button here. And then once you get it kind of started, you can put it into a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper. Now we're going to work our way up the opposite side of the device here. Give it a little bit more heat. It's probably cooled down. We don't want to damage the actual glass. Take our card and then run it down the side here again as well. Now, I love disassembling phones, but when I get an HTC phone, I almost don't even want to disassemble it because it's just going to be a cluster of tape and cables on the interior of the device. It's one of the few devices that sometimes I feel like I should be watching my own disassembly video to put it back together, because I'm like, where the hell did all this crap go? So hopefully they've changed the interior portion, but my guess is not. There's just, the engineering is just crazy on the inside of these phones. So now we've got the glue loosened up all the way around, so we're just going to kind of heat it up all the way around again and see if we can't pull it up just a little bit. There's got to be a ribbon cable underneath this device somewhere that's holding it down. Hopefully it's a snap-off cable. That'd make the screen replacement super easy if it just snaps off. But with the home button being a touch, probably not. So it's not going to be like the other devices we've seen, that the display is just snapped right onto the front, like the Motorola Moto G3. I wasn't just want to pull up just yet, so we're just going to try to get a little bit more of the adhesive off. It's starting to get a little bit looser. It wants to pull up over here. So this is going to be an LCD screen, so one of the key things you want to make sure you do when you're working with these is you got to get underneath the back of it completely. So now I can see all the way underneath the screen. It's lifting up, and there's a ribbon cable just right there. You saw that little gold portion. So be careful with that. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to get underneath the screen. We're going to put our card in and all the way underneath the screen, and then we can work it around, putting our card in farther without feeling like we're going to damage the display. So now it's lifting up nice and easy. So we'll just kind of use our playing card to help us cut just the last remaining bits of adhesive off of here. You can see it separating. You have to kind of slice them off. So our buttons right here. See, we may have to heat them back up again. Oh, they want to pull up. It's fine. All right. And now the screen is almost all the way off. We can kind of open it up, and it looks like, oh, it doesn't want to come off on this side over here. Yeah, it looks like the cable is not going to be removed without having to disassemble the entire device. It's actually going through the midframe like that. That's unfortunate. Alright, so what that means is to get your screen replacement, you're going to have to take the guts out of this phone, out of the metal frame. We're just going to test the display here real quick and make sure it still functions for us. And it does. So no light spots or any issues with it, which is great. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and remove all the screws out of the interior of this device. There are a total of 12. We have 6 silver ones in the middle, 4 at the bottom, and 2 at the top. So you can see we're just working our way all the way around here. Go ahead and remove all 12 of those. With that removed, then we can go ahead and pull out the internal portion. Now I'm going to use the Disassembly tool because it's really thin to get in here. It's actually not really clipped in though. Once you just get your pry tool underneath and lift it up, it'll almost want to pull all the way out. Just don't put it in too deep. You don't want to damage the logic board. So on the back of this, we can see our power button, volume button, so you want to be careful not to pry exactly right there. And it's kind of pulling out. Looks like we'll have to do the same thing to the opposite side of the device. Now the headphone jack is kind of holding the top portion of the phone in. So it looks like what we'll have to do is pull it out of the midframe from the bottom. Just like so. That pops right out. And you can see that we have our metal shielding below. So the loudspeaker is actually in here. There's a little black piece that was on there. I touched it with my spudger and it just flew out of the device. So if you're looking to replace your loudspeaker, which actually is the base portion of the dual speakers, so we'll have to pry this up. Got a little adhesive and it's kind of clipped in. Once you pull it up though and undo that screw, it'll pop right out for you. Let's go ahead and work on the interior portion of the device now. What we'll have to do is undo the battery first. So there's two screws holding it in. It's towards the bottom of the device here. These two screws will have to come off, and then we can pop the battery up. And then we can go ahead and take the screen off of the device. And just looking at this thing, it looks just like every other HTC interior, which is really, really sad. I mean, they have really poor engineering when it comes to these phones. So I will need to pop this little white clip up and pull out the charge port connection to the logic board here. And then it looks like we can go ahead and start pulling this tape back, and that'll help us reveal the display connector, which actually looks like it's a little bit further up here. The display and the digitizer are one cable connection. And we'll have to undo the wire cable here also. So here's some tape holding it down, so we're just going to pull this up here real fast. Man, it's just chock full of tape. I just can't believe that they're still doing this with these phones. Let's go ahead and pop off the wire connection here. I guess one benefit is if you're used to working on HT phones, it's just like every other one, so you should be knowing what you're in for at this point. Pull off the additional tape here, and that will reveal the display connector. And we're just going to pull up the white hinge, and that will go ahead and release the display off of the board. Actually, let's just pull some of this tape off here real quick so it doesn't get crumpled up when we try to remove the display off the device. And try to pull it off in one piece, because you do have to reuse all this stuff to hold down the connectors, unless you have some black EMI tape just laying around. Alright, so that's been removed. Let's go ahead and undo the flip connector for the display. We can go ahead and just pull it out. And there's some adhesive down here holding the digitizer cable on top. You don't have to undo this clip, just kind of pull it up from the adhesive that's behind it, holding it in place here. Just kind of gently lift it off. Once that's done, we can go ahead and remove the display off. We're just going to go ahead and slide the cable upwards and then push it down through the slot on the bottom of the device. And that will free the display from the actual phone. Now, if you're looking to just replace your glass or your display at this point, this is where you do it. You can take it apart and stop here. Hopefully it comes with a new home button. If not, you may have to transfer that from display to display. Let's go ahead and take out the charge port now next. We're going to have to undo the two screws that's holding the connection onto the middle board here. And this is a Torx 5 at this point. All the remaining screws on the interior of the device are going to be Torx 5s. Go ahead and pop this connection up. It's got a little bracket on top of it and the actual ribbon cable connection below. Next, we'll have to pop up the wire connections holding it down. So we'll pop up the kind of grayish one, and then we'll pop up the blue one as well. Turns out the blue one's actually hidden underneath the middle board as well, so we'll have to pop off both sides. All right, now with that done, there's an additional screw on the charge port, so we're going to go ahead and pull that out. The next step is to go ahead and pull up the little blue wire connection on the opposite side. Then we'll need to take up the capacitive buttons and basically just put your spudger underneath it and just take your time and kind of wiggle it back and forth to pull these up. They do have a backlight on them, so you don't want to be too rough pulling them off. So just take your time as you do it. With those both pulled up, we can go ahead and work our way off the charge port. Now, it's stuck. The mic is actually stuck in. Right where my spudger's at, there's a mic. Just be gentle as you're pulling it up. It's got adhesive behind it that's kind of holding it in place. Sorry for the blurry cam here. I'm not sure what happened to my focus all of a sudden. Now we can go ahead and pull off the capacitor buttons through the hole, and that'll release the actual charge port for us. Now, here's the actual charge port cable board looking thing. And right here, this black thing, this grommet, is where the mic was stuck in. It's right here on the device. So that's where it's going to be adhered down after you've taken all the screws and wires and connections off. Let's go ahead and pull off the volume and power button. And you can actually pop these off of the side here as well. They're just put on with a double-sided adhesive. And they just fit back on. We'll go ahead and work our way towards the top of the device. Pull this up. And this yellow capped on tape. And then we have another portion of tape that's holding down this cable, which is part of the top board. And we can pop this little connection up as well. And the connection for, it's either the SIM card or the SD card slot, it's one of the two. And we can go ahead and pull this back, and that'll pull out. Alright, now we'll need to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. We have two cables over here that are holding into the main board of the device. We'll need to pop this up and off, the wire connection, and then same thing with these two connectors. They just snap upwards. We can pull both of these out. They're a little bit tricky. They don't want to come out all the way. Two screws to pull off the main board. Now you want to hinge this open from the camera towards the back. The camera is adhered to the back of this board with just a cable connection. So it'll pop out, and you want to hinge it backwards because they've soldered the vibration module on. I'll pull a little wire cable out of here. I just... oh, man. I can't believe they soldered these wires on here. It's like an RCA tablet or something. This is ridiculous. So we'll go ahead and pull that off. And we have our camera on here as well. So if you're looking to replace your rear-facing camera, you can pop that connection off just like all the other pop-off ribbon cable connections. So our camera and the board, we can go ahead and just set that aside. I have a few screws here on this board as well. We have 3 total. We can take all 3 of them off. All right, one more just right here in the middle. All right, now with that done, we can actually remove the front-facing camera here as well. Let's pull up the little copper tape, and it'll have the same pop-up ribbon cable connection as the rest of the snap-on, snap-off connections as well. And this, honestly, they've basically just put a 5-megapixel rear-facing camera from a phone from 2002 onto the front of the device. So that's how they get the OIS on there. And it looks like there's a little connection right here, and our proximity sensor popped. What the proximity sensor is actually a snapping connector. So there's a little adhesive right here, your earpiece speakers right here. And here's the proximity sensor. You can see that it has a snap-in ribbon cable connection that hits in right here. So I've never seen that before. That's something new on the device. Kind of cool, I guess, that that's replaceable. So peeling back the fabric on the front of the phone will reveal how to replace your SIM card, SD card slots. The battery, we're going to take our spudger and wiggle underneath. So to take the logic board out, these ribbon cables are soldered to the board at the top and then put underneath the battery. So to get those out, you have to take your battery out. So we're just going to pull up underneath it. It's actually coming off fairly easy. There's not a ton of adhesive underneath it apparently. So just around the corners, doesn't look like there's any at the top or the bottom, just on both sides. Let's go ahead and flip it over, and we'll do the other side the same way. Just put it through the little slot here and just pull it right up. So there's your 3000 milliamp battery. So not a lot of deformation in this battery to get it out, which is kind of cool. You can see the 2 adhesive strips holding it down. Now with that done, we can pull up the ribbon cables that are soldered onto the board here. That's pretty ridiculous also. So don't jack these cables up or else you have to get a whole new phone. And that is the disassembly of the HTC 10. If you found it helpful, hit the like button. As always, I appreciate you watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.